Welcome back to the show, 24/7 Laredo Talk Show. Hi, I'm your host, Jesus Chugatsa. Talk about issues affecting Laredo and surrounding areas. Welcome to the show, Dr. Rios. Thank you for being able to make the time. I know you've been a very busy person, and so I want to thank you very much for your time. How are you? How are you feeling this morning?
Really good. Very hopeful for the next few months and hopeful for what I see is going to be a benefit to our students. And as we move away from this year, we still have quite a bit to go, but before we even begin our conversation, I do want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to visit with you and to lend our voice, our LISD voice, to your broadcast.
Well, thank you. We're always posting LISD stuff. So of course, I'm a graduate from the LISD family, so I'm familiar with much of the LISD family. But Dr. Rios, now, the governor just came in and sort of changed everything around this week by announcing that beginning March the 10th, that everything was going to open up 100% occupancy. The mask mandate will be set aside, and pretty much left some powers to every county judge depending on what happens. But as it relates to the school district, I mean, you got some great things going on there. But by doing that, of course, now the question goes, what is TA telling you about what's going on?
Well, I'm very glad that you asked that question because it really did take me by surprise, as well as I'm in a cohort of superintendents. And so we visit very, very often on a daily basis almost. And so this announcement, we knew that it was going to come at one point or other, but to really, really go against what most school districts are right now practicing is a very big surprise for us. As far as LISD is concerned and any other public school district, we're still awaiting guidance from the Texas Education Agency. In fact, we have a scheduled call with the commissioner tomorrow at 3 p.m. And I am sure that he is going to set forth some of the guidelines that we have to adhere to as a public school education institution. As you may well know, the Texas Education Agency answers to the governor's office, and all of the guidelines that and practices that we have been implementing throughout this school year have really arisen from the orders that the governor has set forth or that the legislature has set forth. And that is in all cases, anytime that there is new legislation or a particular order, executive order, we have to follow what that order is saying to do. Now, the how is always really determined by the Texas Education Agency so that we can be in compliance. So tomorrow at 3 p.m., we will have some further guidance from the Texas Education Agency. But I can tell you that from our perspective as a school district, and from what I understand in reading the order and some of the particular guidelines that are coming, or some of the nuances that are coming through from other superintendents, is that as far as Laredo ISD is concerned, we are going to stick to the protocols that we have put in place. As you may well know, masking was actually put into the student handbook as part of our adherence to dress code. And looking at the surrounding trends in our community as well as the surrounding area, we don't look to change that. I know that we've been very adamant, our Board of Trustees has been very adamant in structuring the protocols so that we could keep the safety of our students and staff at the uppermost or the highest priority in the decisions that we're making. So we don't see any changes. I know that across the United States, the president is also saying that he would like to see schools open. But again, there's that little caveat. Will we see schools open in just to open them, or will consideration be given to the trends in the community? So at this point, we know that we're going to continue adhering to our protocols. Our community is still not out of danger. So we want to make sure. One of the things one of the notices that I'm very hopeful about is what the president said, that all school staff should have at least received a vaccine by the end of March.
Well,
And so we're very happy about that.
And I'm going to talk to you about that in a second concerning the other things that you brought to Laredo. So we're excited about that. But before I do that, it's been a year, Dr. Rios, since basically this pandemic started. Actually, pretty much this month in March. Do you feel that the school districts did Webb County or this LISD did its best in dealing with COVID-19 during that whole year? I mean, in terms of protocols.
Well, I can tell you that from the perspective of a school administrator and a person who works for a public school, I will tell you that for the first several months, there was almost, we were getting phone calls from the Commissioner of Education on a Tuesday and a Thursday. And I will tell you that from that Tuesday, there would be a set of, you have to do this, you have to do that. Then on Thursday, there would be, no, don't do it like that, change it to this. So I will tell you that there was a great fluctuation in guidance from the Texas Education Agency throughout the first several months. I would even want to say the first half year. There was guidance on activities, on safety, on the instruction of our students, how we were going to do it. And I will tell you that LISD was pretty much ahead of the game because we had already started to do some of these things. Like, for example, one of the goals that the district had was to make sure that technology was available and accessible to every single student in our school district. So we had already started with that initiative, but when the pandemic came, it was like, uh-oh, now you can't really follow the timeline that we had originally set. So one of the things that we did do was that we accelerated the purchase of these devices, and we did so, I want to say that LISD in the very first push towards ensuring that every single student had internet access and Wi-Fi access, as well as a device in their hands, all the way from pre-K through high school. We spent over $6 million right off the bat. And then what ended up happening was that the state comes around and says, well, okay, now we want to give you a grant in which the district provides half and you provide the other half, the community partners provide the other half. And so we tried to work that out, and we did, we were able to put in some of those reimbursements or requests for reimbursement. But in addition to that, one of the other things that we had done prior to the pandemic, we had already started buying misters, you know, to safeguard, well, to clean our classrooms. So it's really funny, and I don't want to use the word funny in that it was comical. It was, I'm glad that our maintenance and operations department had come up with a plan for the district to purchase some of these misters. So even before this happened, we had already started purchasing the misters.
It's incredible.
And then on top of that, we spent like about $3 million on the PPE. So back to your question, do I feel that we were well prepared or that we did well? I know that there's always room for improvement in everything that a school district does, or an organization or an entity. I will tell you that, you know, we were flying the plane as it was being built, so to speak. And
yeah, I saw that. I think the community saw that, and I think they appreciated everything that the board did, and of course the school district did as a whole. And of course, even the last big project that I want to talk about for a second is the issue of the fact that you're now a provider with the department. Could you tell us a little bit about it, please, so you can tell
yes. Remember when I was telling you that the Texas Education Agency, in line with the Department of Health and Human Services, DSHS, as well as TDEM, what they had established was a set of guidelines, and I guess they started to foresee that there was going to be a need for getting more providers. So we submitted an application in December, and I will tell you that that was a very difficult thing to do. It was late December. In fact, it was during the holidays. On a Saturday, right after Christmas, we submitted our application. And the reason that it took that long was because we had to guarantee that in our application that we had the appropriate medical appliances. There had to be medical grade freezers and medical grade refrigerators. And then at the same time, you have an instrument called a data logger, which really keeps control of the temperature. We had to have all those, and those were being shipped out of the state. But because there was this big need from community entities it was kind of a backlog kind of thing. So we received this equipment, mind you, everything got approved in early January, but we didn't receive the equipment until about a couple of weeks ago. And then we had to ensure that we had a proper generator, because remember, we're storing vaccines that have to be kept or stored at a particular temperature. So we still have not yet placed the order for the vaccines themselves, because we had to run them for 7 days, but we're already able to do that. And so now as a provider, we will be able to provide vaccines to our community and contribute to that effort.
It seems to me that you're a hub basically, or a sub-hub to the city of Laredo.
We're going to be I want to use the word self-hub, and not necessarily only for our community, because we still have to adhere to the guidelines.
Right.
But this is going to be one of our goals as a district, was to make sure that every single employee was vaccinated. And I'm not talking just about teachers, of course, our cafeteria, anyone any and all. And we have approximately 4,000 employees. We have categorized our employees into those who are 65 and older, and we're almost, I want to say there's only single digits left for that. And then we have those with underlying conditions. And so we wanted to make sure that everyone was safe, because I understand this, and I know that you all do too. How can you feel safe opening the doors completely to our schools, to our schools and to our students, if the people who are providing the services all the way from cafeteria, transportation, teaching, teacher aides, and so on, if you're not safe and they don't feel safe? So right. One of the things that we are endeavoring to do is, we had set a goal of May, but now that this is happening for March, we're very happy to be included in that. And I want to tell you, our schools have been open by decree for anyone who wanted to send their students to school. So that's been the difficult part of running this. We had to provide remote instruction, but we also had to provide in-person instruction, even though everyone has a device.
Well, Dr. Rios, coming back to this freezer and the equipment that you brought in, that means the goal for the school district, I would imagine, then, is to basically administer a vaccination, vaccinate every teacher, every employee. It's not mandatory, I imagine, right now, but you want to certainly vaccinate your 4,000 employees pretty much, as well as probably, again, even that, plus the parents and things like that. Is that where you're heading?
Yes, and after President Biden's announcement yesterday, that it wasn't just that he wanted to reprioritize teachers as essential workers, because if you realize, on the original plan, teachers weren't really going to be in the first sets of individuals. You either had to have an underlying condition or you had to be 65. But by reprioritizing teachers and staff, now they can move earlier in the list. And that's why he's saying that by the end of March, every single employee in a school should be able to receive at least the first vaccine.
Well, I think that's a big news for Laredo. It's big news for the district, and of course for the teachers and everyone involved. So I congratulate you, of course, and the board for having the foresight to actually do this, because not everyone is doing this across the board, Dr. Rios.
Yes. So, I also want to, now that you're talking about this, oh my gosh, I want to give a big shout out to our nurses. We have approximately about 70 nurses aides. And these staff have been working since Christmas, volunteering to vaccinate the community at TAMU, in city venues, and they've been doing it without pay. Now, we did change some of those little guidelines, because it's the same group of individuals. We have 30 RNs. Actually, it's a little less than that. It's like 20, approximately 30. There's like 26 or so. And these RNs have been engaged under the direction of Maggie Martinez, our assistant superintendent for student services, from the very beginning. I'm talking about working till midnight the night before, so that they could pre-fill forms, getting ready. And these lists, they were not coming from us, they're coming from the city.
Right.
So we would have to wait for their lists, get everything ready, administer, and then input that information into a tracking system that is run by the Department of Health and Human Services. So
Okay.
all of that was being done over a span of time. I think that the only thing that helped us was that we didn't have as many students in our schools. But if you can imagine the labor intensive work.
Yeah, it is because they're very particular. You need to have
Yes.
all the equipment, not only the equipment, the training, and of course the data. Nothing can move without the right data, and I know that they have very specific guidelines concerning that. So obviously, you seem to have gotten a hold of some good people for putting it together. You
Yes.
mentioned earlier, Dr. Dios, the issue of face-to-face learning as opposed to remote learning. You said earlier that you've been from the very beginning pretty much open for any student that wants to come in to learn. How is that coming along for those face-to-face students?
The law said that we could not say no to any parent who wanted their children to attend school. And we had to open our doors regardless of what the trends were, even if we had a high trend in the community. If a parent said, I want my child to attend school, you have to provide a teacher and instruction. You have to do it. If you are a public school who is going to continue to be funded, we had to be able to do that. So we were doing two types of instruction, remote instruction for those parents who wanted to keep their children at home, and then in-person instruction, which, you know, it really did pose a very difficult situation for parents at home because instruction has changed, curriculum has changed, and I can just imagine how difficult it's been for these parents.
Let me ask you, Dr. Rios, for those kids and those teachers and your staff that were doing the face-to-face learning, I'm sure there were protocols that the school district came up with for those students. What were those protocols that the school district followed?
One of the first things that happened was the spacing, the social distancing in the classroom. We had to actually measure where desks were going to be placed.
Measuring the
6 foot distance. And then we bought sneeze guards, which are those plastic dividers, so to speak, for every single desk. We did the same for every teacher. We bought masks for every single teacher and for students. We bought, of course, the sanitizing equipment. We bought the face guards, the plastic face guards for every single child, every single employee. So this is in addition to making sure that the curriculum was being taught, because I do want to tell you, we had to turn in an instructional plan to the state, and it had to be approved prior to us actually implementing that curriculum plan.
For 30 years, Wethern Academy has produced great fighters, peace officers, firemen, and many great citizens of Laredo. We teach various martial arts, savate, kempo, capoeira, each in their own traditions, trajectory, history, and pedagogy. Wethern Academy is the first school of savate in the United States, the first capoeira movement in Texas, the first Kempo school in Laredo. What will one expect to see at Wethern Academy? Respect, fellowship, coordination, skill, and self-defense. Wethern Academy is located at 220 West Hillside Road.
Incredible. Well, then, obviously, the last couple of months, most of the kids are doing remote learning, or most of your teachers are doing remote learning. I assume maybe soon TA may give you some other direction, but during that period of time, there were a lot of parents complaining how difficult it was for the students to do remote learning.
Right.
In fact, to the point, I think some people even said that there was a lot of the kids were going through a depressive state or something. Maybe
Yes.
it didn't happen at LISD, but it happened in other areas. Um, what um, what do parents do? What do you recommend for parents who have children who are doing remote learning and cannot do face-to-face? Is there any help that they can get? Does the school district offer, or do you recommend some mental health counseling somewhere for them?
Well, and I'm glad that you asked that question because, you know, one of the biggest concerns that we had as a district was kids interact with their teachers and with their counselors. And a lot of times problems that are happening at home, whether they're problems that having to do with, you know, personal problems, neglect, even at the other spectrum, you know, abuse of some sort, or not, or food insecurity, you know, all of those problems were usually brought into the classroom, and a teacher would be able to see this child, oh, look, this child this child that, or this child is crying, or look, this parent didn't come pick him up, or so on and so on. One of the things that happened in remote was that our teachers did not lose sight, neither did our administrators, of the needs that they were seeing on the screen. So sometimes they were logging in, they were logging into with their students, and they would see that something was not where it needed to be. And so I have to commend our teachers. They started reporting these things to the counselor. And so right off the bat, we did establish a counselor hotline. We also have a very, very robust parental engagement program where there's a parent liaison in every campus.
Right.
And then on top of that, we have counselors at every single campus. In addition to the regular counselor, we have at-risk counselors. We have licensed chemical dependency counselors at the middle and high school. So one of the things that we did was, look, we have to be able to publish. Where can you reach out if you have a problem? And it has to be a bilingual message. It couldn't just be a message for those parents who actually had internet. We actually started sending remind messages on their phones. We made a list of here are the counselor hours, here are the outside agencies that you can speak to and visit with, so that way, if there is a need, please contact so-and-so. But I will tell you that really that first line of defense was the teacher. They would see what was going on in that home, because when you are teaching someone, you can see what's going on in the background. You can hear what's going on in the background. So we did have outcries, and they were outcries that might have been as simple as someone's not paying attention to me, or my parent isn't here because they're working. So those are all of the things that we did. But as a school district, we used our Remind phone applications, our computer applications having to do with the parent portal, our web pages, our Facebook page, Twitter. We were very deliberate in putting PSAs together also.
I saw that because it was a Herculean effort on the part of the school districts for the teachers to have to go through all of that, not only teach, but also become like the counselors at the beginning to keep an eye on what's going on in the background. And then those outcries, and there was obviously, you had to change the mode, the mentality of the school district in a quick way to be able to react to those things. So, I mean, I only heard good things about what happened at LISD. I also noticed one last thing, Dr. Rios, is the fact that the basketball players at the basketball games were still wearing masks. Other districts were not wearing masks, but your basketball players were wearing masks. And that goes to show you to some degree how you took seriously the issue of COVID-19.
Well, and I want to tell you, I really do want to applaud our board of trustees, because, and not just our board, but it was a very collaborative effort to really keep abreast of everything that was happening in our community. We got guidance from TA. Oh, here's here's your UIL guidance.
Yeah.
And so they wrote down, here's how you're going to do this. But it was very vague in some instances. And one of the things that I have to applaud our board of trustees was really insisting that we were going to have testing of our athletes every 2 weeks or so. We were going to have testing, and it wasn't will you, it was you will. If you will, you must if you wish to participate. So we actually received over 15,000 tests, test kits. And so those test kits were in the campuses, but we actually engaged with the community and had the comprehensive testing for students. So they would test on a Friday or on a weekend. We would get the results by a Monday and a Tuesday. And so now you can participate. You're not going to get on a bus unless you are clear, because we were thinking about not only the safety of our students, but the safety of the staff. And we also had to report to the state as well as to our competitors, hey, we have a case in our schools. Now, getting back to the masks, yes, we did notice that at these competitions, other athletes were not wearing them. And UIL would say, well, you know, you're in an open court, therefore you don't have to wear it. But again, even starting from volleyball, here's how we're going to sit people on a bench. Right. You know, we're gonna delineate this. Here, this is how many parents are gonna come. Oh my gosh, and talk to me about how many people were upset. You know, this is how many parents are going to come per student, or how many relatives or guests are gonna come per student. So our gyms were actually aligned so that this is where you can sit, this is where you can't. Graduation. We marked our entire Shirley Stadium. This is where you can sit, and you know. So yeah,
it's incredible because I noticed much of it, and I love the public side, Dr. Rios, and I'm sure they may not come up to you and tell you this, but they noticed it and they appreciated it because you kept a lot of their kids safe, a lot of the parents were safe, a lot of the teachers were safe. Though we still have a lot more to go, we still got a few more months to go, hopefully, but people do notice that, and I'm sure that they appreciate everything you've done. In closing, Dr. Rios, is there anything else you'd like to tell the parents of the students and your teachers?
Well, I do want to talk about upcoming plans. We do want to look at our calendar, and if everyone is vaccinated and ready to go, and I believe that the state is going to move forward. I believe that in August, we are going to plan for an early start. As you may well know, the lag in learning for our kids is anywhere from 6 months to almost a year in learning. And looking at our research report, not our research, but general research-based reports, what we know that this impact is going to go beyond this year. This particular status of not knowing or not getting the full intent of instruction, especially our little ones in learning how to read face-to-face, because you need to be able to see your face, you need to be able to sound out syllables and so on. So we need to find a way to recoup some of that learning and provide our students with the best possible opportunities to succeed as they move through school. But this impact, from what we are looking at as far as research, it's going to, you know, move beyond this next set of years. It's going to impact a generation of students. So we are looking for an early start. And I'm not talking for the entire group, some kind of a jump start for particular sets of kids, so that we can reintegrate our kids back into the learning routines that we have. We want to be able to open up some camps and perhaps some opportunities for some more teacher learning during the summer. And of course, you know, we'll be looking at that not as a mandate, but as a way to reintegrate our teaching force. And you know this for a fact, CMP has not stopped serving meals.
Well, yeah, that's it. I'm glad that the school district never did, because there's a lot of food insecurity out there. And you providing food, really, LISD providing food, or the school district providing food, probably is the only time that they get the food, basically.
Yes.
So I'm glad that you were able to continue that project. In closing, Doctor, I imagine and I could be wrong, obviously, but that you are going to have to also vaccinate all your children the next 6 to 8 months, or many of those students, if they approve a children's vaccine.
Right.
Will your hub that you set up possibly be able to be the pilot program to be able to handle the mass number of vaccinations possibly for the children?
Well, believe it or not, in our schools, when we do flu vaccines, I'll give you Nixon as an example. Our nurses that actually go and vaccinate for flu, they can roll out 900 vaccines in over 3 hours at let's say at some place like Nixon. Now, of course, you're talking about the flu vaccine, which is a totally different type of inoculation that does not require X and Y and Z. So I'm pretty sure that, first of all, we'd have to wait for confirmation from the health authorities that there is a vaccine available for children. And right now there are tests being conducted by the vaccine companies to see how that is going to work for children. There is an age limit. Like right now we do have 18 and older, and I know that they're moving to 16 years old and then the little ones. So sometime during the year, there probably is going to be some sort of vaccine. Now, is it going to be mandated? Like the way, you know, how to enter into school, you have to have your vaccines before you're allowed back into school, vaccinations and inoculations. So we don't know if the state, or maybe not even the state, but the United States Department of Health and Human Services is going to say, hey, before you attend school, you have to have this vaccine. We don't have that. So we'd have to be able to adhere and comply with those laws. But as far as the vaccination process itself, our nurses, which we do have a school nurse in every campus, they should be able to administer that once there is an approval by the state. And again, it's going to be determined, is the parent going to allow the child to do that, or is the state going to say you have to have that vaccine before you enter into school? Like, for example, measles and mumps. Right.
Well, those are going to be the questions that only the future will let us know. So we don't have the answers, but you are ready though, in case they're
I will tell you, sir, that after all of these vaccination clinics, I will tell you that probably our nurses and our school campus administrators who have been, you know, the clinic hosts, they know this thing inside out. I mean, at this point now, do we want to do that forever? Absolutely not. But if we want to safeguard our kids, yes.
Yes, good. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Rios. I think I'm going to end the program right here. I want to thank you very much for your time. You've given the parents a lot of information, a lot for the teachers, for me to consider. And we understood now the breadth of the work that was done by the school district and its employees. So I congratulate you, the board, of course, and those teachers and paraprofessionals and nurses, especially, been out there in the front line. Thank you so much.
But Mr. Garza, before you leave, one more message for the community, please.
Yes.
We'd like to encourage all parents, especially early childhood parents, to begin the registration process for their children. And I'm not talking about starting school this semester, but we'd like to encourage everyone to please continue these next 3 months to not only complete the year, but to begin planning and to start thinking about registering their children for the next school year. It's very critically important for us to be able to afford those learning opportunities to our children. We want them to be able to forward. LISD is so good to our kids in that we have provided not only a pre-K program, but a program where every child is able to attend a university, LC, TAMU, and graduate from those universities. This is going to be the first year that we are going to have 57 seniors graduating with an associate's degree as well as a diploma. And they're going to be graduating with an associate's degree from LC in the health sciences.
Wow.
So please encourage everyone to stay in touch, contact their principals, contact our school administrators. We are looking forward to being part of your family in a much more dynamic way as we move forward through the year. But thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you. Congratulations. That really is a big eye opener for students who have been able to get their associate's degree in high school.
in high school.
That's a lot of work, I'm sure, but we're gonna sit down and talk to you later about that. Thank you again, Dr. Rios, for being here. And I look forward to talking to you in the future as well. And I know the parents, the teachers, and everyone appreciates your time as well.
We appreciate all who have contributed and collaborated with our district. Thank you so much. Keep our kids in the uppermost part of your mind and in your heart. Thank you.
Thank you. Felicidades. Thank you. And for the public, again, I want to thank you, the public, for watching the show. Please stay home, stay safe. If you do qualify for vaccination, please take the vaccination as soon as possible. And of course, please register your kids. If you have kids at LISD, probably UISD even, register them early. There is a process for them to get registered. Get them through the process. There might be probably some summer camps. Please get your kids into those summer camps. At the end of the day, it's all about the kids. Your kids is the future of our community. So watch out for them. Thank you. And
thank you.
Again, have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.